لا من يجمع المال ويلقى فيه أهوالا سنون العمر ماضية وكأس الموت قد سالا.
Welcome back. Before we took a break, I was explaining the meaning of zakat. I explained that zakat can be defined from two perspectives. The first perspective was on the linguistic perspective, and the other perspective is with regards to Sharia perspective. And I also concluded by saying that zakat opens to a person a door of increment. He will have an increase in this world, and you will have an increase in the hereafter, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We said that we are putting or discussing this pillar of zakat and the wealth purification because zakat, one of its meaning is purification. As we learn in Surah At-Tawbah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, خُذُوا مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا. Take charity from their wealth to cleanse and sanctify them with it. It is also reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whosoever pays his zakat will have evils of the wealth removed from him. Man adda zakata malihi faqad dhahaba anhu sharrihi. This hadith has been reported by At-Tabarani, Ibn Khuzaymah, Al-Hakim, وقال صحيح على شرط مسلم. So whoever pays his zakat will have evils of his wealth removed from him. Dear beloved viewers, zakat has numerous benefits that has been put or articulated by our several scholars. I will simply mention other benefits quickly so that we can proceed and cover other important aspects of this important topic. Besides zakat opening a door for your increment in this world and in the hereafter, besides zakat protecting you from the evils of wealth, zakat also it is something that brings pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to whoever is giving. We as Muslim, one of our life mission is to gain Allah's pleasure, for He has not benefited a person who lives his life to please other people or to satisfy his own ego and then to face the wrath, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is a person who has really suffered a loss. A believer, a Muslim, seeks a pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and one of the acts beloved by Allah is on giving charity, is on making sure you pay zakat. Zakat also has a benefit of bringing forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah forgives those who are giving for His sake. Zakat also protects your wealth, as there is a famous hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, حَصِّنُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بِالزَّكَاةِ. Protect your wealth by giving zakat. It protects your wealth, but also it protects you from the wrath, from the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Zakat also will benefit the giver by making him a shelter on the day of judgment. Zakat also contributes to long life. Zakat also is said to save someone from fear and grief, as there is a famous ayah in the Quran whereby it is in Surah Al-Baqarah, the verse number 176, Allah said, those who believe and do righteous deed, establish the prayer and give out zakah, they will have their rewards before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they will have no fear and grief. They will have no fear and grief. So dear beloved viewer, these are some of the benefits that have been quoted to us by various scholars, which are coming from either the Quran or from the Hadith. Now I need to clarify an important area here. Zakat is not a tax. Zakat is an ibadah. I repeat, zakat is not a tax. Zakat is an ibadah. So a person whose wealth has reached nisab, his attitude should be to seek Allah's pleasure like he seeks Allah's pleasure in performing other righteous deeds like prayer or fasting or doing hajj, etc. It is a form of ibadah. There are two objectives of which zakat provides. Besides having articulated that zakat's, the benefits of zakat to an individual, it is said by our scholars that zakat as a pillar in Islam has a benefit of propagating Islam, and also has the benefits of helping our beloved brothers and sisters who are not fortunate. So it has this hikmah that it is there so that you, the giver, you can protect your wealth, you can have an increase, etc., but also so that it can help in propagating Islam as well as in helping the less fortunate in our society. Having said that, let me remind you that zakat is mentioned several times in the Quran. Several times, wherever or in most cases where salah is mentioned, you find zakat is also mentioned. In some of these surahs, we read Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ, and observe prayer and pay zakat and bow down with those who bow. In another surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةِ وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ تَجِدُوهُ عِندَ اللَّهِ. Again, this is in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 110. Allah said, and be steadfast in prayer, pay zakat, and whatever you anticipate for yourselves of good, you will find it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As I said, the verses with regards to which mention salah and zakah are quite a number. I will quote another one whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, praising the believers, that they are those الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. This is Surah An-Naml, verse number 3. Okay, that those who establish prayer, pay zakat, and certain of the hereafter. These are the traits of true believers. But also in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, zakat has been mentioned in several hadith which are sahih. We'll take few of these hadith that establish the obligatory nature of paying zakah. It is reported that, this is from Ibn Umar radiallahu عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بني الإسلام على 5 شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان. This is the famous hadith of which the Prophet ﷺ said that Islam is built upon 5 pillars, and he mentioned zakat among the 5. In another hadith, which is reported by Abi Darda radiallahu anhu, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet ﷺ said, من جاء خمس من جاء بهن مع إيمان دخل الجنة. That 5 things, whoever has them along with faith, he has a faith and he has these 5 things, will be admitted to paradise. Then the Prophet ﷺ started mentioning them. He started mentioning حفظوا على الصلوات الخمس, that you safeguard by establishing the 5 obligatory prayers, على وضوئهن, by having a proper ablution, وركوعهن, by making sure that you bow properly, وسجودهن, and doing a proper prostration for it. And then he moved on to mention صيام رمضان, you fast during Ramadan, وحج البيت, you perform pilgrimage, إن استطاع إليه سبيلا, وأعطى الزكاة طيبة بها نفسه, and you pay zakat with a good will, with happiness in yourself, not with anger and a feel of powerlessness. A believer, when he fulfills an act of ibadah, his heart should be so happy to fulfill the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not like al-munafiqun, who praise while having displeasure in their heart. They hate it. They dislike it. They just do it because they have to show people that they are praying, they are Muslims. But a believer, whatever acts of ibadah, he has to do it with a happy heart, with a good heart, with a good will. Okay? So the person who does this, the Prophet ﷺ said, he will be admitted to paradise. And among those which he mentioned, which are normal pillars of Islam, and he mentioned zakat. There is another hadith which is reported by Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anhu, of which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked by Mu'adh bin Jabal. Mu'adh said, Ya Rasulullah, tell me about an action that brings me closer to paradise and keeps me away from the hellfire. The Prophet ﷺ said, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not associate anything with him, establish prayer, pay zakat, fast Ramadan, and make hajj to the house. So these are some of the hadith that shows the proof of paying zakat in Islam. Now let me also highlight warnings or the danger of a person who has the nisab and doesn't pay zakat. What are the consequences of not paying zakat? It is reported by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, one who does not pay zakat on his money will have a bold serpent emerging and surrounding his neck on the day of resurrection. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited a verse from the Quran, of which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ يَبْخَلُونَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ وَخَيْرٌ لَهُمْ بَلْ هُوَ شَرٌّ لَهُمْ سَيُطَوَّقُونَ مَا بَخِلُوا بِهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. This is in Surah Al-Imran, verse 180. So a person who doesn't give out zakat, he should pay attention to this warning, of which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying that this person will be surrounded by a bold serpent that will surround his neck on the day of judgment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to safeguard us from al-bukhl, because a person would only be motivated not to pay zakat because of stinginess, okay, that he has in his heart. وَمَنْ يَبْخَلْ فَإِنَّمَا يَبْخَلْ عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. And whoever is stingy, then he is only harming himself and is not harming Allah or his religion or the Muslims. So dear beloved viewers, this is a serious warning that we should pay attention to. And inshallah ta'ala, in the next episode we'll continue mentioning other negative consequences for a person who doesn't pay zakat while he's able to. Until we meet again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
إلى من يجمع المال ويلقى فيه أهوالا سنون العمر ماضية وكأس الموت قد سالا